walk us through kind of what we learned about Berkshire and some of their holdings.
Yeah.
And this was kind of significant, right?
Yeah,
Because
of
it was
course.
the last time.
Yeah, no. So we were saying before, it's really sad to see that it was Buffett's last quarter as CEO. We don't know exactly if he's behind all the moves. He's been careful to say, sometimes people say I did it and I didn't do it. He won't tell you who did it, but so we don't know exactly what he was behind. But so you mentioned Chubb.
Yeah.
Chubb, they are now the second, or they were even before, but they're the second largest shareholder in Chubb. Chubb seems like a stock that Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway would like to own, I think. It's a cream of the crop insurer. I would consider it probably world-class, best in the world, still growing at a decent clip with excellent margins. Now, the interesting thing is Berkshire has their own massive insurance business. So part of the Berkshire playbook is, we take smaller bites of a company and maybe make something big. I don't want to cause too much speculation. I don't know. I mean, one thing I would say is for the size of those two insurance businesses, they're actually very complementary. So it does lead to some speculation
that they would fully acquire.
That they would want to
Chubb?
fully acquire Chubb.
It's a $129 billion market cap
Right,
company.
and now Berkshire
They have the cash, as
and
you
they,
pointed out.
Yeah,
they
it's
have
massive.
$380 billion in cash, so theoretically they could buy it. There's probably some culture issues there, some antitrust issues, but as an insurance analyst, I dare to dream about that kind of mega merger.
Help me with that, because Tim and I were talking about this. I went to the FA function on the Bloomberg, and I thought the balance sheet showed more than $700 billion in cash and equivalents.
I think that's high. That might be including some of their investments, because the cash is definitely like 380, and then the investment portfolio is around 300 as well.
So you could do some stuff with that.
I think so.
People love to look at the cash holdings that Berkshire Hathaway has as a sign of, being on the sidelines waiting for an opportunity. And maybe that opportunity comes in the form of the New York Times, or maybe it comes in the form of an increased investment in Chubb. But some people point to the idea that, well, valuations are just really high across the board right now. We don't want to be buying anything. Can we get that at all?
That's what I've felt from Buffett. I mean, look, Buffett's been old. He's been stepping back from the day-to-day. They've been a net seller of stocks for, I believe it's 13 quarters in a row. And we're not talking by little amounts. It's like $5 billion a quarter that they're a net seller of stocks.
And during that time, the valuations have
only gone up.
Yeah, I mean, 3 back-to-back years of double-digit increases.
So it kind of gets,
500.
gets caught in that loop of it's too expensive, and then it's getting more expensive. And the other thing, though, is Buffett is not really ever timing the market, and I think Greg Abel, his predecessor, will be the same way. They're looking for quality companies, and I think some of it lent itself to the valuation, some of it lent itself to, I think Buffett was kind of just slowing down and looking for opportunities. One thing I'd say, not in the 13Fs, is their Japanese holdings have done quite well. So it's not something that gets a lot of attention, because I don't think we understand it incredibly well.
How much exposure do they have?
So they have the holdings, I think, are about $20 billion now. So it's one of their biggest holdings at this point. It doesn't show up in those 13Fs because it's a non-US holding.
Okay. Yeah.
But that was probably the biggest move in terms of stocks that they made over the past couple of years.
Speaking of moves, though, if you look at the New York Times, it hit an all-time high today after getting Buffett's blessing, whether it was he and the team or what have you. I mean, we know he likes newspapers. We know that. I know you're the insurance guy, but you understand kind of the thinking of how they invest and what they invest in. I mean, does it feel like a typical Berkshire or Buffett buy? And I kept thinking, maybe he wants to buy it, or maybe he wants to protect media. I don't know.
It's possible. I don't know if he'd make kind of an activist type move on the way out. We were talking about perhaps them being better in video or things like that. So not
They're
a bad,
really
the digital side,
really
and
well.
they made an investment in Sirius XM, and they own this Liberty Media stock. So it's not completely foreign for them to be in this type of realm.
Yeah.
So I could see it that way.
What about cutting a position in Amazon by 75%?
So the position in Amazon is interesting. So it wasn't Buffett's initial idea. They started it in 2019. They brought it to him. He said, and again, they talk about how Buffett didn't necessarily want to invest in tech, but I think he viewed it as retail versus like a tech play. We calculated that position was up 130 to 140% for Berkshire in the time they held it, which is great. But it's also pretty much in line with the S&P 500. So I feel like you're looking at that and you're saying, okay, we've got this tied up in this kind of Mag 7, potentially volatile name, and perhaps we take some off the table. I think they sold about $1.7 billion of that, which is smaller. It's still smaller than the positions they cut in Apple and Bank of America.
I mean, are we expecting Berkshire Hathaway in terms of the holdings to change dramatically? I mean, this feels like a company that buys and holds for a while.
Yeah. So I'd say a couple things, Carol. The past couple of years, they have made smaller investments where they've kind of moved in and out of them. And those were not needle moving for Berkshire at all. I would think Greg Abel taking over, he will, it's not fully clear, but I believe he will have the discretion over the investments. He has the investment deputy. But I think he just maintains the ethos of Berkshire, at least for the next couple of years.
I mean, it's worked.
Exactly.
Do we read too much into this? The quarterly moves?
I think so.
Do we?
Yeah. I mean, it's always good to get these little clues, especially with Berkshire. They don't do conference calls. They don't talk to analysts. So there's not much to do. Yeah, the website is from 1987. And so we kind of looking for little pieces here and there.
Maybe he just likes Wordle.
Little pieces.
So he wanted the New
little
York
pieces
Times.
of See's candies, if you will.
No, I'm just saying Wordle. Maybe that's what he just wanted access. Hey, we should also point out he increased Berkshire stakes in Chevron as well.
So the interesting thing there was, maybe it was some kind of play on U.S. intervention. They did it last quarter, so it was before Maduro got taken out. Chevron will be a big beneficiary of U.S. With more direct involvement in Venezuela oil. So they owned a lot of Chevron anyway.
Yeah.
So it could have been the tea leaves, maybe not.